those of you who know me, you know that in the building of the Clinton Presidential Center and Park and in the building of the University of Arkansas Clinton School of Public Service, tourism was a major factor. In this building, an 1899 passenger train station, which served very much a part of Little Rock and Arkansas's history for many, many years until it met the passenger train demise in 1967. The location of this site, adjacent to an interstate, within walking distance of a convention center, close to the River Market, entertainment and retail district, and close to the airport, makes this presidential center and park unique in terms of its relation to tourism. I'm Skip Rutherford, Dean of the Clinton School, and on behalf of Patrick Kennedy, Nikolai Peppa, and others who put together this outstanding public program series, we're glad to have you here. It's my pleasure to introduce our speaker, a friend of mine, whom I've known for many years. We worked together in the opening of this center and in the promotion of tourism in Little Rock and in Arkansas. One of the things that stands out is that his ability and his advice in taking what I thought was just a small regional product and making it national and international has led our city to record numbers of meetings and conventions, to high visitor numbers, and to increased hotel occupancy rates and new hotels. Every downtown hotel in Little Rock is either new or renovated, and to the highest tax revenues in our city's history. All that is a result of strong tourism leadership under the expertise of the president of the Little Rock Convention and Visitors Bureau, Mr. Dan O'Brien.
Thank you very much, Dean Rutherford, for those very kind words. I do appreciate that. I was deeply honored when Skip asked me to introduce our next speaker, who is the representative of the industry I'm in, and many of you in the room are in the travel industry. And I really appreciated that honor, and because I knew that one thing about travel is the goal of travel really is to make the world a smaller place. And it matches up ideally, I think, with the role of the Clinton School and with Skip's new objective as the dean of that school. I think President Clinton and Dean Rutherford certainly understand that the world is quickly becoming a smaller place, and is preparing this generation of students as graduates of the Clinton School to both recognize that and take advantage of all the interdependencies throughout the globe that travel creates. I actually thought that's why he invited me to introduce our speaker. As it turns out, why he invited me to introduce our speaker is he's a firm believer that travel does make the world a really small place, and here's how small it is. Roger Dow, the president and CEO of the Travel Industry Association of America, and I are from the same hometown in Fairlawn, New Jersey. I don't know how the dean knew that, but there's a lot of things I'm quickly finding out. So, failing to find anybody else from Fairlawn, New Jersey, he asked me to do this. So I'm proud to stand before you here as a resident of Bergen County as our next speakers. In fact, we both, I'm going to tell you a little about what our speaker did with Marriott Hotels. Not only are we from the same hometown, we both worked in the same Marriott Hotel on Route 80 in Saddlebrook, New Jersey. He had a far more prestigious job as a lifeguard than I did as a sort of failed waiter, but I stand before you today with a failed waiter from Fairlawn, ready to introduce my friend from Fairlawn. Anyway, Roger Dow, we're thrilled to have him with us today, is the President and Chief Executive Officer of the Travel Industry Association, whose 2,000 plus member organizations represent every component of the $703 billion with a B, U.S. travel industry. That travel industry also is the creator of 7.5 million jobs and provides for $171 billion in direct payroll every year. TIA is headquartered in Washington, D.C., with an overseas presence in Japan and Brazil. Roger joined the organization in 2005 after a 34-year career with Marriott International, which started at that Saddlebrook Marriott, where he was the Senior Vice President, Global and Field Sales, leading Marriott's 10,000 plus person worldwide sales organization. He also developed a program I'm sure many of you are familiar with, or not, if not members of, the Marriott Rewards Program. When he left Marriott, it included 2,800 hotels in 69 countries. Roger, in his tenure as the president and CEO of the TIA, his mission is to help the industry come together as a single great choir, all singing the same song with its many and diverse voices, which I think is uniquely matched with the role of the Clinton School. And so we couldn't be more proud and honored to present to you today Roger Dow.
Actually, I remember the day when I came in from the pool and the waiter said to me, "Someday I'm going to introduce you at the Clinton Library in Arkansas." I said, "What a prophetic guy." Well, I stand before you. The group that I represent called the travel industry is planes, boats, and trains, lodging, rental cars, payment and distribution system, theme parks, tour operators. Every state tourism director, Joe David Rice, is with us right here. Our good friend, and Joe David Rice heads up our state tourism directors. So he's co-chair of a group that brings together all the state tourism directors, and we're here because of all the hard work that Joe does in our association. So we want to be able to tell about my town. So your town's made us very welcome. We really appreciate it, all the things you both have done. Gosh, we feel like we're a big convention, so thank you very much. But it's when you look at this, we have 400 destinations just in the States. And travel and tourism, as Dan said, is one of the largest industries in our country. Yet very few people think of it that way, because it's split up into a whole bunch of different pieces. It's split up into all those pieces I talked about, from airlines to hotels. No one sees so much the aggregate. President Clinton, it's good to be here, held the first White House conference on travel and tourism, and really began to get people talking about what this industry does and can do for the country. Just to give you a perspective, Dan mentioned $700 billion, which is a lot of money. Next year it'll be $740 billion. But that's only the people that get a paycheck from a hotel or a restaurant or an airline. It doesn't count the people who make the tables, or the vans that pick you up at the airport, or the floral displays and all those. That's another probably $600 or $700 billion. So this industry is responsible for driving about $1.3 trillion of our U.S. economy, making it the either 1, 2, or 3 largest industry in 49 of the states and territories. So that's so important. And the jobs are so important. 1 out of every 8 employees in the United States is in some way getting their paycheck from a travel-related job. But the problem is this industry is not seen as that kind of movement. We joke around, but it's a sad joke, that we're the Rodney Dangerfield of industries. When you look at financial services, you look at all the things that are going in healthcare or petrochemicals, the automobile industry, you don't hear a lot of talk about this travel industry. And that's very sad. So we really have to get something done about that. One of my friends in the administration said to me one day, said, "Oh, you got a great industry. After all, the president enjoys a good vacation now and then." A good vacation now and then. But that's the perspective. My neighbors all think I'm a travel agent. I've given up telling them I'm not a travel agent. Okay, I'm a travel agent. But they think I'm a travel agent, so okay, I'm a travel agent. But the bottom line is no one has the perspective of what this industry does. The power of what this industry does to our economy. And the neat thing about it is that people will come here, they'll come here to visit this library, to visit Little Rock, whatever. They'll get off that highway, then they get back in their cars and they go home. They leave their money. You don't have to educate their children. You don't have to fill their potholes, and you don't have to feed their homeless. What a beautiful thing. and from all over the world this is happening over and over again. But that nice vacation now and then doesn't focus on the meetings and the conventions and all the things, all the deals that are done, the business that takes place where someone came together at a meeting in that convention center, someone came and went to Axiom and made a sales trip or Aristotle or something like that, and all of a sudden they've changed their business and a new relationship is put together. And that's the kind of things that happen. Development. What is going to happen? Someone is going to come here to visit this library, and they're going to say to their husband or to their wife or to their kids, this wouldn't be a bad place to live. Maybe we ought to move here. I can't think of an area in the United States that hasn't grown, whether it be Phoenix, whether it be Florida, any area, where the areas, all the resort areas around the state with the lakes and all that, that didn't start with someone going there, either on a business trip or vacation. So it's a prime mover of development and all the things that happen. And I think that's so important. But more important than the economy, we can talk billions and millions of jobs and all that, but much more important in the economy, I think, is the understanding that is created. How many of you have been outside the United States on a trip? Okay, those of you raise your hands. How many of you, when you came back, had a different impression of the place you went to visit and the people there and told your friends about it? All of you. We all grew up in reading in history books or reading in media what it's like in South America or what it's like in Africa, the Middle East, or Asia, or whatever. Then we go there. We find out that people are kind of like us. They kind of like their family. They kind of like their children to be a little more successful than they were. They just want to have a better life. They want to make friends. They're going to value their culture and things like that. And we see that the world's closer than it is further apart. Public diplomacy is such an important thing that this industry brings that we need to get recognized, not only around the country, but around the states, around the communities. When you think about it, when you go to a place, when you meet the people, you visit their sites, you absorb and see their culture, you go down to the Flying Saucer and sign up for the program with 200 beers. I got 197 to go. But when you've dined in their restaurants, when you've visited their homes, when you've listened to their unique music, when you've bought their crafts and their artwork, you've visited their museums. Also, you have a whole different feel for that people and for that area, you tell your friends. We're a very fragile economy. The travel economy is an extraordinarily fragile economy, even though it's so big. September 11th brought this industry to its knees in a matter of minutes. The U.S. economy followed in a matter of days and weeks. The world economy followed in a matter of weeks and months. And all of a sudden people began to say this little thing called travel is a factor in so many of our parts of life that people don't understand. A couple of weeks, maybe about 5-6 weeks after September 11th, I was up in Westchester, New York, it's just outside New York City. And I was going to a meeting for a group called Meeting Professionals International. I was speaking at a dinner. And I was driving back, and a gentleman was taking me back. His name was Joey. And I said, Joey, how has this affected you? He said, Mr. Dow, he said, you're my first bride in 6 weeks. I said, Joey, if you operate this car service, how are you going to pay your mortgage? How are you going to feed your children? How are you going to buy their clothes? He said, I don't know. He dropped me off at LaGuardia Airport, and I should be smarter than this, I travel a lot. And I looked out the window of the car, and I said, oh good, there's no one at the counter. So I went up to the counter, and I said, I'm going to Washington, D.C., and the young woman behind the counter, her name was Karen, and Karen said, you want fries with that? I said, excuse me? So I'm practicing for my next job. They told me Tuesday I'm out of here. No one's flying anymore. And the thing is, you take this industry, and what we represent all this, it's the Joeys and the Karens and all these people in the world that have these jobs, whether in restaurants, whether they're driving a taxi cab or a tour operator or what, that you don't even think about that are part of this industry. I think we've got an extraordinary clear danger, an extraordinary clear opportunity that's before us as a country. We need to work together to get people to realize it. The crisis is that when people travel, they share ideas. When people travel, they share views. They get to know each other. The world becomes closer. Just, the fact Dan and I were from Farallon, we didn't know each other really, but also our bond was like this. Did you know this person? You know this person? Did you go here? But all of a sudden, that happens when people travel. They don't know each other. Let me give you some numbers that frighten me, but almost no one except folks in our industry are aware of. In 1992, 9% of the people that crossed the border, that went to another country, came to the United States. 9%, almost 1 out of 10. In the year 2000, 7.5% came to the United States. And we had September 11th and all the things we put in place for security and all that. Last year, 6%. So we've lost in 15 years 35% of our market share. In the last 5 years, we've lost 18% of our global international market share. No matter what company or what business you work for, if during your watch you lost 35% of your market share, or in a 4-year, 5-year period, you lost 18% of your market share, guarantee you, you would not be in that job anymore. But that's what's happening to us, and no one's paying attention to it. Worse than that, you look at business travel. Last year, we lost 10% of business travelers coming to the U.S. 10%. And one would say, oh, it's all technology. They're all on the internet nowadays. In Europe, their business travelers from outside the country are up 8%. So we're going this way, and the world is going that way. Internationally, we had a record year in 2000. 51 million people came to this country from all around the world. A certain percentage of them came here, and now that this is here, a bigger percentage will come here. In 2006, 52 million people came here. And everybody was so excited. The Department of Commerce rolled out, we've recovered, the travel industry's recovered, isn't it great? Only problem is, those little shrinking numbers I was talking about, which is market share, while we were busy recovering, the rest of the world was growing exponentially in travel and tourism. And the pie was getting bigger, and our slice was shrinking. And that was happening over and over again. And what that's done, that's masked a problem we have internationally. As I said, international travelers, 52 million. One little problem, that little word international. International also takes in Canada and Mexico. So when we take out Canada and Mexico, which have gone up 8 and 10% over the past, legitimate travelers, the past 4 and 5 years, the travelers from outside, the long haul, overseas travelers from Europe, Asia, South America, Australia, are down 17%. So we're leaking like a sieve. But people are saying we've recovered. And that's a challenge. What's caused that? And we're on sale. We're on sale. Those of you who travel and go to Europe, my gosh, you go to Italy, you better bring your savings account. It's so expensive. You go to London, it's so expensive. We're on sale. That's like the local department store having a 30% off sale and no one being in the store. And that's what's happening. You look at post-September 11th. How did this happen? After September 11th, we did a whole bunch of things as a country to put security in place, and that's critical. Security is job number one. There's not an industry that cares more about security than the travel industry. One bad problem happens in a hotel or another airplane or something like that, it's bad news for our industry. We care more than any industry about security, but it's about balance. It's about balance. We could stop all car crashes in the United States by eliminating driving. Very simple. Don't drive, there will not be another, we don't have to worry about mad or anything like that. We'll just eliminate driving, there'll be no more crashes. How stupid an idea that would be. Yet we're trying to do the same thing. What happened is travel and security are not mutually exclusive. The two can happen together. And probably, and I'll make a case, hopefully, they must happen together. Let's pretend you live in Brazil. If you live in Brazil, or if you live in India, you have to get a visa to come here. Do you know how long it takes you to get a visa? Almost 100 days. And you know now, Brazil has it's as big as the United States. There's 4 cities now where you can get a visa. And you must be interviewed for about 3 minutes. I stood in Sao Paulo 2 weeks ago and watched an interview in 3 minutes, and this person in 3 minutes is going to decide whether you're a terrorist or whether you're coming back to Brazil or not. And so you and your whole family have to go there. You have to pay $100. That would be the equivalent. If you want to go to Brazil, that you would have to fly to Washington, D.C., Chicago, L.A., or Miami to get a visa. Is anyone from Little Rock going to Brazil? Guarantee you're not. And that's what's happening. You take Brazil, in 1998, we had 1 million people from Brazil come to this country. 2000, it was down to 750,000. Then we put all these things that make it, have trouble of getting a visa and all that. It's now down to 500,000. The Brazilians are big spenders. They love to go to restaurants. They love to buy clothes. They spend an average of $2,000 a trip. $500 million just disappeared from our economy, just like that, from the Brazilians that aren't coming anymore. We say, well, they just don't travel. In 2000, 500,000 people from Brazil went to Europe. Last year, 2 million went to Europe. So their economy is booming, it's coming back strong, and they're choosing to go elsewhere because it's too much trouble to come here. New York City and Company. New York City, 13% of their travelers come from outside the United States. 45% of their travel, of their spend, come from those international travelers. So these international travelers spend big time. The other challenge, so getting a visa is a real pain around the world. We're making it very hard. Someone who's been, let's say someone who does business here in Little Rock and is from Brazil and they happen to come here, they've been here 10 times. That person still has to go for an in-person interview to renew their visa, even though they're trusted, we know who they are. Next is the airports. If you travel, those who travel internationally, you see the international press says, boy, when you go to the U.S., they're going to treat you with arrogance, they're going to be rude, and if you say the wrong thing, they're going to make you wait for hours and interrogate you more, or worse yet, they'll send you back. So all over Europe, the press stories are mounting and growing, and they love to get a story about one traveler who has a problem. And that's going on. And then lastly, we're not promoting this country. So now the impression of the United States is left only to what someone reads in the papers or sees on television. If you look at other countries, Australia spends $113 million on promoting travel and tourism. Their travel economy is only 1/9 the size of ours. Greece, $150 million, Turkey, $80 million, Italy, $70 million, Spain, $120 million, Fiji, $10 million. United States, $4 million this year, 0 from then on. 0. The world pie is growing, our slice is shrinking. Well, that's a problem. Not for the economy. The economy is a small part of this. It's for the people and how we're seen. As you travel around the United States, we're not seen very well. And everyone wants to jump to the conclusion, oh, it's all about policy. Well, policy is definitely a factor, but policy comes and goes. It has come and gone over the past 50, 100 years. It's all about the difficulty in getting into this country. 64% of people say the reason I'm not from the U.S. is it's too darn hard, and I'm concerned about how I'm going to treat when I arrive there. And I've heard that from my friends. And they're not hearing the stories. Australia is spending $113 million. I was just telling this gentleman from Stevens, I was saying, if you take a look at what they're spending, only less than 1% of people in the UK go to Australia. But 99+% are watching commercials on the telly. Boy, they look like fun people. Boy, that looks like a great place. What if people around the world, we can't run, the State Department will run ads about America and everyone just turns them off because they say it's propaganda. But what if people saw you, they saw the Clinton Library, they saw the rivers, they saw the baseball games, they saw the diversity, they saw the shopping, they saw Las Vegas, they saw the National Park, they saw the Grand Canyon, they saw the beaches. The world would say, man, I never go there, but I want to go there. What would it do from a public policy? You know that when comedy imitates real life, something's going on. I'd like to show you a clip. Our association had nothing to do with scripting this, of The Tonight Show with Dame Edna. We'll roll the first clip, please.
I've been touring the United States, and what a country this is. I think America is one of the best kept secrets in the world. I'm telling people all over the place about it. I have, and they're intrigued. I think you'll be getting quite a few tourists if they are allowed into the country.
I think America is one of the best kept secrets in the world. I'm sure they would be there if they're allowed into the country. And this is what people are saying about us around the world. And what ends up happening in our research, we've done a lot of research, and we find out that when people come to this country, 72% more of them have a favorable opinion of America and Americans. And they go back and tell their friends. So you think if you ran an automobile company, and if you knew that 72% of the people who took a test drive went out and bought one of your cars and told their friends they should buy one too, what would you do? You'd push test drives. What are we doing? We're doing the opposite. We're saying no more test drives, we're going to limit test drives. And that is, I think, a real challenge. 64% of people that say state that the reason they don't come here is because of hassle, because how they're going to be treated. So what we've done is our association's gotten together with many other associations as you try and create one voice, to try and get our policymakers, to try and get people around the country to understand what this challenge is. And we formed what we call the Discover America Partnership. Discover America Partnership is all about trying to get the word out of what the challenge is. I'd just like to show you a little short video here of some of the clips, some of the stories that Discover America Partnership is just getting grounding in the last 3 months has already started to create. Can we roll the next video, please?
There's a new survey out that shows that foreign travelers consider the U.S. the most unfriendly place to visit. The recent reports is showing international travelers are in fact avoiding the United States.
The United States tops the list as the most unfriendly country to foreign visitors.
According to a recent survey of international tourists, the U.S. entry process for foreign travelers is the world's worst.
10 million more visitors, 1 billion more stories. As a result, international arrivals can return home with a tremendously positive impression. In the effort to win hearts and minds, we have a unique card to play. That card is an invitation to visit America, to meet our people, and to experience firsthand our values. We all agree that safety for our citizens and for our visitors is absolutely critical. But while some may argue that keeping people out of the country will make us safer, we strongly disagree with that. We need to have a secure wall around this country. That wall has to have a door, a welcoming door.
People are holding a rally in D.C. today to try to improve America's image abroad. The campaign dubbed Discover America wants to achieve that by encouraging more international visitors to come to see the United States and to meet you.
Former Homeland Security Chief Tom Ridge is working with a business group. The group says people are avoiding travel to the U.S. because the entry process is too challenging. Ridge says he will work to strike a balance between security and better access.
If Congress got engaged and Congress said, find a way to be both secure and welcoming, we think the administration and the agencies would find a way to get the job done, and they'd get it done quickly.
Doesn't that make you mad? I mean, you look at it and think of the Southern hospitality, when I think of the great welcome I got at the Peabody, and as I walk around this town, people are saying the most unfriendly place in the world. I want to make us mad, because that's not who we are. And the world has the ability, once they spend time with us, to go back and tell the stories. I said to Karen Hughes, I said, Karen, what would it be worth to you, from a public diplomacy standpoint, to have 10 million more people going home somewhere and saying, you know, they're pretty nice folks. Everything we read, boy, they're really a great, I have so many people are so happy, what's that worth to you? You say, well, 10 million, that's a lot of people. If we could go from 6% to 7.1%, that's 10 million more visitors. And what that does, that's 10 million, that's $15 billion more to our economy. It's 150,000 jobs, and that's what it's all about. The loss is not just, as I say, for the economy, it's the loss of students. One of the groups that's a member of this Discover America Partnership is the American Federation of Students, because the universities are seeing fewer and fewer students. I'm on the board of a school called Arizona State University. I went to speak in Shanghai, China, at their MBA program. Now we've got people in Shanghai, China, they're getting an ASU degree that have never set foot in this country. What used to happen, the brilliant minds would come here, and some of them would say to their friends, you know, I like this place, and I'm going to bring my family here. I'm going to settle here. And all of a sudden they go to work for one of our technology companies, and when we grow this, we're now shrinking them. So this group is part of the group. Another group that's joined us is the U.S. Olympic Committee. The U.S. Olympic Committee has said to us, we will never get another Olympics in the United States until we can solve this problem. The Pan Am Games recently went to Brazil. They were awarded to Brazil. It was between San Antonio and Brazil. And the decision was made because they couldn't get the athletes and all the fans into the country. So Brazil, and that was $500 million lost to the San Antonio economy. And that's happening time after time after time. My concern, as I've said to Secretary Chertoff and the people, we must have a secure country. When I grew up, where Dan was, we had a lady in our neighborhood named Mrs. Murphy. And you've all had a Mrs. Murphy in your neighborhood. We never saw Mrs. Murphy. Mrs. Murphy would just look out the curtains. We don't know what she looked like, but we do know that she had some kind of advanced radar system that a ball went on her lawn. She could dial the police and your parents in a nanosecond, and you were in deep trouble when you got home. We grew up years and years and years of shooting it out with who would get the ball on Mrs. Murphy's lawn because you knew you were getting beat. We grew up with people hating Mrs. Murphy. They never met. And then when these kids got older, Mrs. Murphy's mailbox got knocked down. Her house got toilet papered and egged. I saw someone one day that did a figure eight in their front lawn when they could drive. And I maintain, if we do not build this people coming to the United States, we are going to create the thing we're trying to stop. We're going to create, because the dislike of Mrs. And I met Mrs. Murphy at a funeral of a relative many, many years later, when she was in her 80s, and this little tiny old lady, the nicest, sweetest, honest her, and I couldn't believe she was the woman we hated so much, but we never saw her. So therefore we learned to hate her. And that's what's going on around the world. So we have a big job. So the Discover America partnership that I just talked about, we launched on January 31st, and that's three things. Three goals. We're going to Congress. We've already got legislation working to make three things happen. One, create a 21st century visa system. Get someone a visa in 30 days. Doesn't seem that hard with the old technology and the capability that we have as a country. We ought to be able to get somebody a visa in 30 days. Increase the number of visa waiver countries. If they'll give us more security information, we can be safer and it'll be less people checking on visas. If you look at international conventions, I've got a good friend of mine from the Convention Association business here today, and if we look at international conventions, anytime there's an international convention, everyone is screaming that their international attendance is down 25, 30%. Consumer Electronics Show, you all see it with all the new gadgets on TV all the time. The fellow who runs that show said, he said, 24,000 international visitors. I could have had 40,000 if they could have gotten to the country. There's a fellow, always we're testifying at the Presidential Economic Council, a fellow who runs a company called Illinois Tool and Die or something like that. They make fasteners, screws, nuts, and bolts, billions of them. He said by the time a country in India, a tractor manufacturer in India, wants to come to my factory to see if they buy nuts and bolts and screws and fasteners from me, it takes them, even with the help of the Commerce Department, 50 to 60 days to get a visa. In that time they've been to Korea 3 times and they're writing the purchase order before they even coming here. This is killing silently our economy. We don't know what's going on. So that's point number 1. Point number 2. Take 20 airports and make them model airports for the world. 20 airports take in 100% of the visitors that come in from outside the United States. 12 of those airports take in 80%. With all of our capability, with the Disneys, with the Hollywood, why can't you get off a plane? Why can't you see the video on a plane getting you excited about being America? Why can't you walk down, instead of the gray corridors that I walk down with linoleum floors in Dulles, why can't there be pictures of Little Rock, of Florida, and stuff that get me excited about being America? Why can't I see on big screen TVs the things I'll have to get ready and explaining what the process will be, and also showing me the things I can see? Why can't we have the most welcoming and the most secure airports in the world? 20 airports. Look what you did right here in a matter of years. What if we turn the whole crew that built this library over to fixing Dulles Airport? Come on, Skip. I need you to go. But think what you could do. Come on, Skip. All right, I got a new czar of airports. Okay, so thank you. But that's what could be done. We're asking to add 200 Customs and Border Patrol officers. So when you get there, it's not a line where you stand on line, but there's someone to welcome you. We're asking these people to say, welcome to America. Welcome home. We're glad you're back. One of the things we put in was to have Disney and Hilton and Marriott, they've all volunteered to do hospitality training. They got stricken out of the bill. We've got in the Homeland Security bill, we have 200 officers hopefully going in there. They struck out, they said these people are paid for security, not to be nice. I checked into Peabody Hotel the other night. I'm telling you, I wasn't getting in there without a credit card. But the lady was as nice as could be. It wasn't stand behind that red line, I'll check out your credit card and I'll let you know if I'm going to let you in this hotel or not. It was, how are you? First time in the block? Well, we've been expecting you, Mr. Dow. Boom, boom, boom. You can be hospitable, you can be nice. And the last part is to have a promotional program to change the perception. We cannot allow our destiny to be told by the international media. We need to tell America's story all over the world, to get people wanting to come here, to come to all these places. When I grew up, my parents told me the most important thing were the 3 R's: reading, writing, and arithmetic. For my children, I've added a 4th R, roaming. Reading, writing, arithmetic, and roaming. Because our children, if we don't roam around the world, if we don't have people who roam around, whether it be Arkansas, whether it be Florida, whether it be New York, they don't roam around our country, the world will pass us by. Yet if we do roam around the world, and people roam around here, the world will not pass us by. Let's continue to try. So that's my message. It's great, we've got a very healthy industry, but we've got heart disease that no one's noticing under the surface. And we as a group have to do something about it. We've got to get mad as hell. We're not going to take it anymore. We've got to show the world who we are. Thank you very much for welcoming me here. Thank you for the opportunity to be part of this. Thank you for your hospitality.
Now that Teresa Kaiser has just been named head of Dulles Airport.
It's not fixed in 6 months.
That's right. Does anybody have any questions for Roger? Ben?
Yes, okay.
Why no advertising budget for the country?
Very simple. The Secretary of Commerce, Gutierrez, who is perhaps the best proponent we've had in a long time. He said, I want to be the nation's travel agent. He said to us, he said, I agree with 2 out of the 3 things. I don't agree with promoting America. That's the industry's job. And I said, you really should, and he's a marketer, he came from Kellogg's. He should know better. But yet we spend billions marketing wheat. We spend billions marketing technology. What the government does is it's seen as a bailout of our industry. We're trying to change the equation of this is seen as the first line of defense of telling people who we are. The first line of defense, it's not about spending some propaganda ads that no one listens to in the Middle East. It's about getting some folks here to see who we are and then going back home. It's a very short-sighted. Well, some people don't agree with it. Senator Dorgan from the Commerce Committee is putting a bill together and holding hearings this week on how the United States is going to get a marketing. It's just embarrassing. What I say is, you've got to get people to consider America first. If they're thinking Spain, I guarantee you the Peabody Hotel is not going to get their business. There's no possible way. If they're considering America, when they just might come and spend, and they want to see the Clinton Library, they just might come here, and then you can fight it out between different places. So it's government's belief. And one of the challenges that we had is when Clinton was president, he said that we ought to have a promotional campaign. We did away with a bureaucracy called the U.S. Travel and Tourism Office. It was kind of a bureaucracy, and we traded it for a promotional campaign. Then Newt Gingrich got in all the trouble, and all this stuff happened, and it kind of got lost. And it's now, we're trying to bring it back on the table, but it's been 14 years. But it's silly. It's one of the most best investments. If we can move 1%, and I don't think that's so hard to do, and you can get $1.5 billion back in tax revenue, wouldn't you do that all day long as a businessman? I'm sure you do. So we've just got to get the voice up of how important it is to this country. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, thank you. My name is Karina Mutia. I'm one of the students at the Clinton School. Thank you so much for talking to us right now. I've been telling everything that you just told us to my classmates, and at least finally they believe me right now. Well, basically, my question is, what has been done? You mentioned a lot of recommendations and what can be done to improve the situations. But what has been done to do this? What should we do as outsiders? For instance, I really want my parents to come here for my graduations, but I'm so scared knowing what I have been through to get the U.S. visa. even I got Fulbright scholarship, it's still not it's not certain that I will get the visa. I have to wait in Jakarta for I had an appointment for interview at 9 o'clock, but I had to wait there since 5 in the morning, and we are all lined up outside. It's just like we are treated not nicely, and I do not want my parents to be treated that way, and they don't speak English. I know how horrible things can be done in the immigrations, especially in the port of entry, if they don't speak English. So my question is, what has been done, whether or not we have hope for people outside of the U.S. who don't speak English to come here? Thank you.
Did you listen to her? She said it all. I am so afraid to have my parents come to my graduation. What has to be done is very simply, we've got to get more folks at the embassy. We've got to get more English-speaking folks. We have to foreign language-speaking folks that speak English, speak both languages. When I was in Brazil recently, I went with the U.S. ambassador, and I looked and I said, boy, it must be pretty hot standing outside here in the sun, because people stand 4 hours in the sun in Brazil. And he said, well, we put a roof over part of the area, so it's a little more comfortable once they get inside the fence. Inside the fence. What do you think the people outside the fence are thinking? So we've done so much harm. When she says she's afraid for her parents to go through the process, we've got to turn that around. I dare say all the students that are in your class, think very highly of you, the people from your country and all that, because they've met you. But if they've never been to your country, they would never know about it. So what we have to do is we have to make it job number one, because, again, it's the Mrs. Murphy syndrome. The people in Jakarta and places like that are finding it impossible. If they're terrified to go to get a visa, and I dare say, I'll bet you $1,000 her parents aren't thinking of coming and doing any harm. They're probably thinking of coming to hug their daughter, watch her graduation, just like we would do with our kids. So we're going to push on all those things, but it has to happen. But your story is to tell over and over and over again, millions of times around the world. So you wonder why we're not, and you look in the mirror and you say, that's not us. But it is part of ours. It's part of our security. It's part of this belief that, you cannot be nice and cordial and welcoming. You have to be a bad cop. And that's, thank you for what you said. Appreciate it.
Any other questions? Yes.
He gives very powerful. He gives very powerful statistics, and for those of us that broach these topics, where can I access them? There's a website or books you would recommend.
Yes.
To get up to date.
If you would go on poweroftravel.com, www.power.org. Is it .org? I'm sorry, it's .org. That's my communications person always helping me. Thanks, Dennis. Powertravel.org. All those numbers you will see, and they're all there. It's laid out. The whole blueprint is there. What we've recommended. It's common sense, simple stuff. But again, these are numbers that are totally unknown to most people in Congress.
If I may ask a realistic question.
Yes.
Can the industry survive 21 more months?
From airline costs?
We have a new administration.
Oh, I got you.
I think that, just to follow up on that, I think probably people in this country have been schooled over the last few years to be more paranoid, to be more unfriendly. They're getting accused from above. The things that you mentioned about the visas and other things obviously reflect directions that are coming from the top. And it's not just people on the outside. People who live in the United States, who are traveling abroad, doing semesters abroad, that kind of thing, are getting the same kind of retributional treatment when they go to other countries as well. So I think practically there's going to have to be a change in the message that we get at the top.
Well, what is happening right now? You asked about 21 months. Right now, on the 9/11 vote, Congress is not standing for it. We've raised the voice to Congress, and especially with change going, people want to say, and this is both bipartisan. This is not a partisan issue. This is when you get down to it, when people really understand it. It's Republican, Democrat. It's your town, and the bottom line. So what's happening is we've got the bills attached, and a lot of people are very enthusiastic. As Senator Dorgan, Inouye of Hawaii, Stevens of Alaska, are all pushing for the promotional campaign. Visas within 30 days is already going through in the 9/11 bill. 200 more officers are going through. So we're not standing and waiting. We wrote for the president, for Karen Hughes, we put a 10-point plan together. We said, this is what, if you want to have a legacy, if you want to walk, have something. I said, why, and we put a plan together. We said, why couldn't we take travel and tourism, the number of students that come here, and make that a top priority? Why couldn't we have, through school programs, a Smokey Bear of travel and tourism, public diplomacy? Why couldn't school children, through the McDonald's program, learn about geography and what it's all about? Why couldn't, through travelers from college going on student trips, learn from Pepsi on how to act and understand where we fit in the world? Why couldn't business people through folks? And I said, you can envision the president staying up and saying, we are going to become part of the world. It's an issue, and there's a lot of distraction going on. But the things that we're talking about right here are in play right now with Congress, with Senate right now. So we're pushing that way.
Yes, questions?
Any good business person knows that the most valuable person on your staff is the receptionist. And you were speaking earlier about people coming into this country and how they're being disrespected. And I personally experienced this in the Los Angeles airport when a minority person rudely disrespected another minority person right behind me, trying to get through the security. And I came this close to asking for a supervisor. It was all bordered almost on abuse. And somebody needs to get that message, because that's happening to Americans, not just people writing in or coming to visit.
Yeah, it's happening across the board. One of the challenges is these people are stressed out. You do not want to be the next person, if you're in a visa office, to let in a terrorist. You don't want to track back to you and who wasn't more vigilant. The stress of being sure every single of the 20 locations of Customs and Border Patrol are anywhere from 80 to 70% of staff to what they need to be. So when you're strapped, you think of your job, when you don't have enough people, you don't have the training. So we're trying to do something about it. It's a huge area, but it's a combination of, I'm a cop, not a greeter, but yet it's first impression. And you can be a cop and be a great greeter. And it's about staffing levels, and it's about training. And all those things have to happen simultaneously. And it's just that we're going to bang away, and we're just not going to give up until we get through. But it's going to be a long fight. It's not an easy fight. It didn't get there overnight.
As a follow-up, what can we personally do? What can we do?
I think to your congressman, say, again, you can look up where that blueprint is and just say, I understand that it takes forever to get a visa. I understand people are rude and there's not enough people in customs. What are you doing something about? There's bills that are going through. I hope you'll support this. This is important to our community. It's important to the visions we have. We've got to raise the voice. We did something. We used to have something in our association called the Unity Dinner. And what we would bring together is all sorts of people from the industry to meet with congressional elected leaders. Well, I went to the first Unity Dinner. I've been in this job a little over 2 years. And we had one congressional aide at the dinner and 700 of us from the industry. And I think congressional aide stumbled into the wrong room because they were in the National Rifle Association room or somewhere. But they stumbled in. So we blew up the Unity Dinner, and what we created was we had 30 separate dinners. And we would have, if we had chosen a better date, we would have 50, but each state, Arkansas, Florida, New York, because you know these people. You play golf with them. You kids go to school with them. You know them. I know their names. You know choir. You can say, hey, you can pick up the phone. And that's what has to happen. We've got to get the grassroots levels. When people in their communities are saying, this can't happen, we've got to do something about it, that's when it happens. We can create a national voice, but it's going to happen. It has to happen down at that level. So we had our 30 dinners. At our 30 dinners, we had 1,000 people came to D.C. and 150 elected members of Congress. That's 1/3 of Congress, sat for 3.5 hours and heard this story. The next 3 days later, the WHDI, I don't want to bore you, Western Hemisphere Travel Initiative, may have read about it, where anyone coming back from Canada or the Caribbean or Mexico, we're all going to have a driver's license, a passport. That was going to go into effect at the end of this year. On Friday, it came up for a vote. Congress pushed it off until 2009 in June, so they can get it right. But that was the power of 30 different dinners, 150 people hearing the voice. And we thought it was lost. And on Friday, the thing turned around and went the other way. But that's the power that you all have that I don't have.
Roger, thank you very much. I believe that is very Let me say a special thanks to Joe David Rice with the Arkansas Department of Parks and Recreation. He brought this group to Little Rock in Arkansas and made arrangements for Roger to be here today. Thank you, Joe David. Thank you all for coming. We have another program here tonight at 6 o'clock, and you are welcome to come. It should be on your list. Thank you.